On the 16th of October 1793, the former Queen of France, Marie Antoinette, was taken to the scaffold inside the Place de la Revolution in Paris. She had been condemned to death during the Terror and following the French Revolution, and she was charged with a huge number of crimes, including, shockingly, incest, treason, and waging war against the French nation. The Austrian Princess was considered a terrible traitor against the French people, and she was said to have been someone who was out of touch with what the people needed. Marie Antoinette did not have to be killed for the French revolutionaries to achieve their goals, but they ruthlessly put her to death, sending her to the same execution device and guillotine that her husband had died upon. Marie Antoinette's final words were remarkable, and they were something completely accidental. However, inside of a museum is an incredible artefact linked to this moment and the Queen's final words. These are the shoes the Queen wore to her execution that very day. Marie Antoinette was 37 years old when she went to the guillotine. She was blamed for a great deal for financial crisis in France, and she was a symbol of hatred and ridicule among the population. Marie was tried by revolutionary tribunal on the 14th of October 1793, and many of her lawyers thought she would be exiled, but this was not the case, and her defence was given little time to prepare. She refused any of the charges she had been accused of, and no one expected her to be executed. She was declared guilty on the day of her execution for being guilty of depletion of the national treasury, conspiracy against the security of the state, and also high treason. She was then condemned to death, and the former queen was taken to prepare for her execution. She was sent back to prison, and Marie was then forced to change her clothes in front of the guards, which was very humiliating for her. During this time, the preparations for her execution took place, and some of her prison guards cut her hair very short, so that when the blade fell upon her neck, it would go straight through, and the blade would not get caught in her hair and cause a botched execution. Marie wanted to wear a black dress that she had commissioned for her, but instead, the prison guards forced her to wear a plain white dress because she was a widowed Queen of France. She was given the specific dress to wear and was also given a pair of shoes to wear. The shoes she was forced to wear have a small heel, and they are a powerful relic of the Queen's final moments, and they were rather fashionable, and they have survived to this day. After she was dressed, she was taken by a cart to the guillotine inside the Place de la Revolution, and it was on this exact execution device that her husband, King Louis XVI, lost his head on months before. It was a humiliating process for the former queen, who had also had a rope leash tied around her neck like she was a dog, and she had to endure the taunts of the crowd and the jeers as they took her to the execution platform. A priest remained with her, but he noted that Marie ignored everything he said and remained in silence. She arrived at the guillotine roughly at midday, and her last words were recorded as, "Pardon me, sir, I did not do it on purpose." Now, these final words are not the most poignant or prominent, and they outline an incident that occurred on the executioner's scaffold. Marie had said nothing on her way to her death, but she then, on the platform, accidentally in her shoes, stood on the foot of the executioner. The shoes that Marie were wearing are a final reminder of the moments of the Queen of France and are a tragic reminder of her fate. She would have wanted her final words to have been something more prominent and proud, but her final words were linked to this accident. The guillotine blade was then prepared, and Marie was led over to the board which she was strapped to, and was then slid under quickly as the blade and the executioner released, and the former queen's head was taken clean off. At some point the executioner processed and displayed her head to the crowd, and one painting shows her executioner parading this in front of the crowd as it had been attached to a large pole so everyone could see. But following her execution, the Queen's body was thrown into a hastily dug grave inside of the nearby Madeleine Cemetery in Paris. In the decades after, her body was actually exhumed and dug up, and the stockings that had been given to her before the execution were found on her body as they had not decayed. But her shoes had been taken from the execution scaffold, and they exist today as a relic of the executed Queen of France, Marie Antoinette was a tragic figure, but one who was reviled in her nation, and they could not stand her. Her final days were brutal and ruthless, and she made her way to the execution with grace, and her final words were an apology as she stood on her executioner's foot. Thank you for watching, and to support, please subscribe to Her Remarkable History. Thank you.